tip that I want to give you today, and that's 5 ways to use soft plastic lures. So these are all ways that you can rig soft plastic. First of all, soft plastics are right, a very versatile lure. You can do a ton of things with them. They're cheap. Well, there's a misconception. They're cheap, but you don't get very much use out of them because they're not very sturdy, right? They're soft plastic. So sometimes you think you're getting stuff for cheap, but you're going through a whole lot more than you would if you had, say, a crankbait, a good crankbait, or whatever it may be. But there are several ways to use them. So here's 5 ways to use soft plastic lures. The first one I want to talk about is Shaky Head. This is a kind of what they call a finesse style tactic. And basically what you're doing is these are the jig heads that you see here that you would use for shaky head fishing. And basically what you're doing is you're taking your soft plastic, most of the time it's a worm, as you see in the picture there, but it can really be anything. But kind of what sets this apart from other jig heads is that little screw-in holder that'll hold your soft lure, and then you hook it through the plastic and keep it expose it just a little bit, but not too much. And then you just you're using this setup with light gear. Light spinning gear, usually light line, a light to medium action rod, and finesse fishing. It just simply means that you're casting out there and you're working the area. It's a very slow technique. So that's what this is, and what you're doing is you're casting out. If you know that there's fish in a spot, and this rig is known to get stubborn bass to start biting. It's one of those go-to rigs that if they're not doing anything else, try this, throw this out there in that area, and start getting the bites. So all you're doing is casting out, and then you're just twitching or shaking, just a little bit, and then moving it a little bit, twitching and shaking, and then reel it in and do it again. So that's the shaky head. And again, you can use it with any soft plastic, but the most popular way is with soft plastic worms. The next one is a Ned Rig. This is similar in that it's a jig head, but and this is also a more recent technique. It's actually you're getting a Senko style bait or soft stick bait type worm, and you're actually cutting it in half, and then just threading it onto the jig head all the way to the top, the way you see there. So again, this is a finesse style tactic. You're casting out, you're working that area and kind of leaving it there, kind of twitching it, working it in that small spot, and then bringing it back in, and then trying again. It's not really moving through the water, and hence the finesse technique here. So that's another creative way to rig your soft plastics. The next few are going to be probably ones that you've heard. The Texas rig is the first one. This is probably the most popular way of rigging your soft plastics, and again, the most popular way is with worms, but this is truly for any soft plastic that you have. And there you can kind of see the process in the pictures of what you have is a worm sinker, a wide gap hook, worm hook, and then you're just hooking your lure on, as you see there. This can be fished through in so many situations. So it can be cast to the shore, it can be cast to structure, to deep water, but basically you're casting out there and you're working it back, and then casting again, working it back. So not so much a finesse tactic. It's kind of almost a search bait, but not really. But that is a real popular way, and you've probably seen this, but that's how you use it, and that's how you rig it. The next one is a Carolina rig. Once you're doing a Texas rig, you can easily transition to the Carolina rig. You're hooking the soft plastic to the lure in the same way, but this time you're using an egg sinker, a bead, and a barrel swivel. So you put your line through the sinker, then through the bead, tie on the barrel swivel, and on the other side of the barrel swivel, you're tying a leader on, which can be 8 to 10 inches to 12 inches, or maybe even longer, depending on what you're doing. Again, this is in this style, you're going to cast out there, and you're kind of casting the structure, and this is more an offshore, or if you're trying to feel what's out there, that the you'll be able to feel the transitions in the surface of the lake through the weight, and you'll be able to tell if you're in sand or rock or grass, and you're really searching again for the bass with this. You're dragging it through structure, dragging it over humps. This is real good on ledges, that type deal. So that's another real popular and an OG way of rigging soft plastics. And the next one is one of my favorites. We're getting back to kind of a finesse tactic where you're just throwing it out to a spot and kind of waiting, working a little bit, twitching. But this is the drop shot rig. Very simple, just a hook and a drop shot weight. They sell specific drop shot components, but you can use a bass casting sinker, an octopus style hook, but they have drop shot hooks and they have drop shot weights. And you see there, you just rig that, whatever your soft plastic is, you rig it right at the very tip, and then you cast out. I usually work with a leader. This is a short leader for the purpose of the picture, but I usually work with about a 12 inches of line between the hook and the sinker is how I do mine. And this is actually, like I said, one of my favorite ways. Most of those pics that you've seen there in my introduction, most of those were caught with a drop shot rig. Now, a version of this, you'll take a worm, again a Senko style worm. Instead of hooking it through the tip there like you see, you hook it right through the middle of the body, and then you have a wacky rigged drop shot. And wacky rig is, again, it's just when you hook it right through the middle, you have equal parts of that worm on both sides of the hook. That water really just moves that worm and makes it really, really enticing to bass. And that's really one of my favorite ways of rigging a drop shot with a wacky rig. So that's a real quick tip and on 5 ways to rig your soft plastics that are real productive. My suggestion would be to learn the Texas rig, work that, and then kind of go into the Carolina rig. Of course, depending on your situation and where you're fishing, any of these rigs will work from the shore or from a boat. It doesn't matter. Texas rig, especially for shore anglers and boat anglers. And the drop shot, especially if you're tied to the shore, I mean, you can get this out on some spinning gear and get it kind of a little further out and use that. That's, again, how I caught some of those fish was from the shore using the drop shot. So a few ways there. Hopefully that helps.